Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens, the screenwriting step-by-step project episode 191, session 191. My name is Glenn Gers, and I come to you every Monday through Friday, if I can make it, at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time Zone. I let you look over my shoulder, share my screen as I write a script, and I am doing this in order to teach a part of screenwriting that I think is kind of undertaught, which is the process, the step-by-step, line-by-line, day-by-day work of turning your ideas and your goals into a script on the page. Doesn't matter what kind of script it is, I'm talking about just the basic mechanics and techniques of how you get scenes written and structures down on the page. I am doing this because I think that while it's great to, lots of people are teaching how to make a script great or what sells, I'm not sure I know what sells. I know that the things that are hardest for me in my 25-year career writing for TV and movies was to teach myself the actual mechanics, the actual working of it. Not to worry too much about whether or not I'm doing the perfect sales pitch, just what can I do to get my script to read well, to play, to flow, to make sense, and mainly just to get it done. Take from this what you can use, get rid of the rest, disregard the rest. Every single writer has to figure out their own process. This is just what worked for me, things that I learned, which I want to try and show you in case it'll help you when you are facing the blank page. You do not have to watch all these 191 episodes. It's not important that you follow every step. It's just a way to show you the things that come up when you're trying to write a scene and you can't figure out how to organize your dialogue or how to give it a great ending or whatever it is that I'm working on day to day. Hopefully that'll be useful to you. If it's not, just see, that's something you could not do. The main things that I think are useful are made into these 10-minute lesson dialogues, lesson videos on my channel called Screenwriting Essentials, Screenwriting Tools, Skills, and Craft, and The Process, Being the Writer. Those are the first 3 sections on my channel if you go to the main page. If you look at those, each one is, I try and make it really obvious what that's about. Dramatic action, the process of asking questions. Whatever it is, I put that as the title, I put it as the thumbnail. It's a 10-minute lesson where I try to boil down whatever I think is really useful. Just techniques, skills, tricks of the trade. So that's what we're doing here. Hello, Maritolatoso. Hello, Jean. Hi, Jenny. Good evening. I'm assuming you're in Europe then. Hello, Marty Mac. Okay, so here's the situation. I have gotten, I started with just a rough idea, a couple sentences, a basic idea of what I wanted to do, and I let you watch while I made an outline, while I figured out the characters and the story of the pilot script. It's a pilot script for an hour-long drama series. Then when I had the outline, I did the rough draft, which is just the first raw, get down whatever you can, which was way too long, way too disorganized. Even though I had an outline, I hadn't really perfected the outline. So then I did the rewrite. I went through it scene by scene. I tried to figure out what each scene was really about, because that's a key thing that writers need to know. What's this scene about? Thinking in scenes. I really urge you to, hold on, let me show you. I did a whole video about this. It's called Think in Scenes. So I figured out, I began to get a real sense of what each scene's purpose was. What was I trying to accomplish in that scene? You can only accomplish so much in any given scene, so it's important to say, okay, in this scene, we're going to get this bit. Later scene, I'll cover another bit. Anyway, so I've done that. Now I'm going to start the last phase of the rewrite. Hi, Mojo. Which is to take the draft that I have done here. Let's take a look at this. The draft that I've got, opening up my document. Okay, so I've started to read through this first draft, which is now 68 pages. It's not bad. It's a little long. I'd like to try and get it down to 60 pages. But at least it's beginning to be a story. And now I've got kind of two steps I have to take. Most of this week I have been showing you what it's like to write a proposal document, a pitch document for the series as a whole. Because when you write a pilot, people might like the pilot, but they're like, where's it going to go? What's going to happen with this thing you set spinning? Where is it going to land? And you need to have some plan, not everything planned out, but some idea of what you want to happen in the series as a whole and in the season and how many seasons you've got. That you're not going to have ultimate control over that, but at least you can propose what you'd like. So for that, I'm working on this pitch document in which I'm describing each character, describing the themes, trying to give people a sense of what this story is about. But honestly, I feel like there's a certain amount of this work I should just do off screen when you guys aren't watching, because it's just going to take too long to hash out a rough draft of this and then do some more rewriting when I still haven't rewritten this. So I'm kind of at a turning point on what am I going to do for the concluding section of this live stream project, this script writing step-by-step, which, hard to believe, is going to come to an end. And I think the thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of bop back and forth between the pitch document and the plan for the next phase of the outline, in which I try and next phase of the rewrite, in which I try to get the script into a readable shape. It's getting close now. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today, is both of those efforts. And then so that by next week I can actually just move ahead. I feel like I'm beginning to feel like while this is really fun to show you guys what I do, I've already done it. I did 191 hours. I don't think you need to see me rewrite and rewrite and rewrite. Hi, Jenny. I'm so glad. Hello from the future. Yes, good evening to you. Thank you for watching from London. I'm really glad that you're here. It's great to be able to share this with you guys. So here's the deal. When I started to rewrite, one of the first things I realized is that this opening sequence, I was trying to get too much into it. Here's the thing. We've got, I'm going to open the outline because that's a good place to work. Boom. Okay. You see, I did this. All right. At this point, sometimes I write little notes to myself, like to remember. In this case, the point of this was to introduce the podcast and then to have a big twist with the murder of a person who appeared to be our main character. I already know that. I don't need that right now. The outline is a working document. So what I have got here is it looks like it looks to me, all right, what I want to do is sort of outline the scene, because this scene has many steps in it, and I want to look at the outline, like what do I really need in the scene? What pieces? There's a monologue that goes on through this entire scene, and it's really long, and it covers a bunch of different topics. So what I need to do is figure out which one topic is going to be in this scene, and I have to take sections of this monologue and move them to later scenes. Hi, I write. India, 3:40 a.m. My gosh, are you staying up late or getting up early? It is very nice to see you, Anchor. Thank you for watching at 3:40 a.m. By the way, I don't want anyone to lose their sleep or to be unhealthy in watching this thing. So if you're not getting enough sleep because you're trying to chime in live, watch it on recording. Most people are going to watch this thing recorded. I love having you live. It is so cool. I got a bunch of people on here live, and I love the live questions. But if you have something you want to ask me and you're not watching it live, just put it in the comments. I will see the comments. At a certain point, I will try and answer it. Okay, so back to what I was doing. So let's just what I'm doing is comparing the outline. Okay, the outline. This speech begins with the experience of poison, not with new evidence. Okay, then. Meet the killer. That's the second. All right. Okay, so this section where he's talking about who the killer is and then how the FBI names him. Then there's a change of subject, which is George's personal connection to the legend of this killer. So that's the third section. And then we've got no one cares, no one is listening. I'm going to identify. All right, so then we have new evidence. All right, boom. So these are the 4 topics that this speech covers in the current version. It's just too many topics. It's too many changes of subject. The question is, which one do we need to hear as the opening of our story? I had originally liked the idea of the description of what the poison is like, just because that's just hooky. It's scary. It's very specific. However, I'm not sure that that's useful because we're going to see him get poisoned. The thing is, what we've got here is he records a bit of the podcast. He goes and gets a snack. Then while he's eating the snack, he's listening to playback. And then he dies. The thing about if he dies while he's playing back the exact description of what he's doing, it's just too coincidental. It's too easy. It's like, oh, how perfectly literary to have that there. So I think I can't use it for that. You know what else? Okay, here we go. The decision I'm making right now is if he is recording a podcast that has been running for a while, why would he be explaining who the serial killer is? So realistically, this would not be this whole thing where he's saying who the killer was. Do we need the personal thing? You know, I think what we need to do is cut this. Thank you for the thumbs up. This is a real. You're watching real writing here. You're watching me not know for sure. All right. See this. Classic corkboard, dense with classic corkboard. All right. This is probably a better. Okay. There we go. That's a little better. All right. So what I'm just doing here is I'm trying to make this into a workable scene. Now I am definitely letting this be a little. It is unrealistic that in whatever the 10th episode of his podcast, he's telling about the first murder. Maybe he should be the last one. Chime in with questions if you got. I'm just still. Hello, Roddy. I'm reading. In case you're wondering why I'm quiet, I'm reading to see. See, this is a. A pitch meeting. This is a good question. Hi, Roddy. Good question. Okay, first advice. Well, the first advice is be prepared. You want to be able to give your pitch. You're going to these meetings are stressful, and you can often be thrown off. You need to, somebody will ask you a question you weren't prepared for. The thing you want to do is have no uh, problem accessing the story you want to tell. So you want to rehearse. You want to prepare and rehearse your pitch and keep it short. I don't know what it is you're pitching, but assuming that you're pitching a story that you either have written or want to write, the important thing to do is to be able to tell that story. You don't have to tell every detail. You just have to give a good sense of the main characters, the genre, the tone, and the main hook of the plot. You don't have to get very up and down, but you want to get the big problem that they're facing and why they what they care about, what they're trying to do, and what the obstacles are. You want to get all that stuff and just run it over and over again. Okay, you're doing a feature film that you've written. Great. Okay, so at least you know the answers. So what you want to do is find the way to tell the story and practice this out loud. Make index cards or write out like a beat sheet of the big points. I wouldn't try and memorize the whole pitch. I would try and just memorize the main points, the bullet points you need to hit. And then practice it and make sure that it's running. Ideally, they want it to run about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. I tend to run over, and that's a real problem. So the main thing is rehearse the actual pitch itself, the point where they say, okay, tell us what you've got. And you say, figure out, do you want to start with a little summary, or some people start with like a question, like, what if, da 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 da. Whatever it is that you're going to do, and if you want to be able to tell the story. Do you tell the ending? Probably, but that sometimes you just want to tell them enough to hook them to read it. But the main thing is rehearse your pitch so that you don't have to think about it, because it's very hard to concentrate under the pressure of, just even a little. Sometimes they're yawning or they're literally, I have pitched to people where their eyes are rolling back in their head because they're tired, especially if it's late in the day. So that's the that's the main thing. The main thing I would say about the pitch is don't give a couple of cool details, but don't get caught up in a lot of details. People don't want the pitch to take every step of the journey. They want to give the big pictures. Hi, Orfe. For instance, let's just say let's pitch The Matrix. Okay, spoilers if anyone hasn't seen The Matrix. So you'd say the way I would do it, because you want to kind of have, one of the key things about The Matrix is the sense of gasping reveal as you go through the story. So you don't want to start by saying, this is a set in a future where human beings are being used as energy source by robots that have taken over the world. That kills the fun. Start by saying, your main character is Neo, and he's a hacker in a kind of anonymous contemporary city, and he's a kind of disaffected young 20-something young man. He's into club music and the nightclub life when he's not grinding on his hacking. He has a corporate job, and one night he wakes up and there's a message on his screen that says, "Hello, Neo." Neo is his hacker name. See, now what I've done is I've gotten you hooked into the story, and then you can say he meets this famous hacker named Morpheus, who says, "I can show you the reality beneath this world, but you can never come back." Blah blah blah. And then in the middle of the pitch, you tell them the true situation, And then in theory, you would say, for the rest of the story, we are following Neo's education as he learns how to control his artificial intelligence self, to become conscious within the artificial intelligence, to be able to fight, to be able to try and find his way to attack and change the Matrix, etc., etc. So you're trying to summarize. You're not saying, okay, first he learns kung fu and then he smashes it. And you might say, if there's some element of it that is really cool, like there's going to be action that is beyond realistic, but shown very realistically, so that they're doing things like jumping from building to building far beyond where a normal person could do, because they are not in reality and they can, to a certain extent, bend reality. And those scenes we see in the reality of the Matrix, so that the action is really cool, blah, blah, blah. So you're trying to kind of sell it without getting into every detail. That's my main advice, is think of it as a commercial for your story, in which you're trying to get the big elements with enough detail that they don't feel like it's generic. And then the other main thing is keep it short and try as best you can to look them in the eye, to communicate, to really tell them the story. Don't be thinking, I have to hit all these points. Be thinking, I'm trying to get them to follow the crumbs I'm dropping. That's the main thing. Remember that it is a performance. It is you are connecting with the people and you're trying to get their interest. That's the thing about pitches. You have more specific questions, but mainly what happens is you go in, mostly when there's pitches, you will go into an office that has a person who works in a corporation or a studio or a company that is interested in buying scripts or hiring writers. They will make a little small talk, and then they'll say, okay, tell us what you've got, or tell us your story. Then you shift into your performance mode, and it's fine. Perform. It's okay. They, good in a room. But it can happen. Like I've said, where people are just clearly bored out of their minds, or they're not going to do it from the second you go. I try to engage with the story, to say, what I care about here is the story, not the person I'm talking to. I'm trying to get them to like the story, not so that what you're thinking about is how great the story is. After that, they will ask questions. Be prepared. You have no idea what the questions will be. The main thing you want to do is not make decisive choices in that room. If they say something like, well, do you think that the Matrix could take place underwater? Even if a part of you is saying, oh, no, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. You say, let me think about that. I'm going to have to work on that. Let me get back to you about that, or something like that. Or say, well, let me think about how that would work. But don't. The idea is to make things go to the next phase, which is they read the script. Or that's a really interesting idea. I'd like to know once you've read it, what you think, how you think that would work. Blah blah blah. Anyway, that's the main thing. For me, I tend to make a document, sort of like my outline, my overview documents. In other words, I do a document with like 18-point type, so I could just glance at it, put it down, and I can glance at it. I don't put it down because I don't want them to see it. So it's sort of like just big, bold lines like, meet Neo. He's a hacker. He has a corporate job, just blah, blah, blah. And actually, I just do like Neo, hacker, corporate job, meets Morpheus. Something like that. So there's just little cues. You don't want to stop and read while you are doing a pitch. That's it. Okay. Let me know if you have more other questions. The main thing, remember, the thing you're trying to do is get them to read it. All right. I watched yesterday and talked about everything else. Yes, exactly. That's what I think. It's Yeah. The indie film beat the studio film, and I love Marvel, but you're not going to be able to beat the indie genius of Everything Everywhere All at Once. Let me just, since we're talking about it, okay, guys, if you get a chance, watch this movie. It is now coming on video on demand. You can buy it, rent it. Pretty soon, you'll be able to rent it for cheaper. But I strongly recommend this. As I write says, it's a really amazing blend of genres. It's both a family drama, an indie movie about a family that runs a laundromat, and a woman's midlife crisis, and her at the same time, it's just a whacked out what if there were multi-universes action comedy, and it's just absurd and ridiculous, and I think some people might be put off by the silliness of it because it is silly, it's wacky, but what happens is the silliness is used to step by step approach really profound and moving realities, and that's what I really love about it. That's why I'm pushing it. Okay. Do you know what constitutes or defines a scene and when it should end? Yes. Though I think I do. There is no actual completely like universally accepted version of this, but for me, it is an action. The purpose, the every scene will have one central action, and so for me, the definition of a scene is an action that takes place in a single place and time. As soon as you're moving places or times, you are going to a new scene. Now, sometimes an action will continue in broken up pieces through several scenes, but in that case, you have sort of stages of the action. The main thing that I think defines a scene is that it's unified in time and place. When you see in a script, there's a scene line, a scene break. Here, let me show you one. Okay, let me just take your thing off here for a second. There. So these things, they're called scene headings or scene lines or slug lines. That is the defining break between scenes. And one of the things you can think about as you want to conceptualize this, what this is a time and a place and a time. George's studio continuous, the same, the time that follows the last scene exactly. Every single one of these is a place and a time. And the reason that they're doing that is because when you change scenes, you are changing place or time. Now, in this case, the scene that I'm ending here, George, is the scene of George podcasting. That's the action. He is recording a podcast. Very simple action. Within that, there are several sub-steps that he's taking, which I've been working on. At the end of the scene, he leaves the podcasting studio and goes to his house. So there's a scene, and this is a real simple scene. He just walks from one building to another. That's it. He's just trying to go from one place to place. That's the scene. The action of the scene is he's going from place to place. It can be that simple. Then in this scene, he's going to get himself a snack. The purpose of that is that if you are showing a new place, it's because a thing is happening that you need to know. Like, you need to understand that he's been podcasting in his garage and now he's going to his house. There's a layer of meaning to that, which is you are understanding that the podcast is more ramshackle and pathetic than you may have thought. That's the actual dramatic action, is to reveal to the audience that George is kind of sad. He's kind of a loser. So for me, the main things that define a scene are that it's an action and that you need to know what the action is, the purpose of the action and the actual quality of the action. Those are different things. In other words, the purpose of the action is to show the audience something, but George's actual action is he's going to get some lunch. So yeah, I would strongly advise looking at my video Think in Scenes, where I try and talk about this in detail. Also, in case I haven't been clear about this, dramatic action. When I say an action, I don't mean walking across the yard. that's the physical action. The actual emotional action is, first of all, the film is showing the audience something. Sometimes the action is the film is showing the audience. That's the actual action, showing George's life. But also George is taking an action of transitioning from work to home. That's what that scene is about. So like these are the layers of meaning to the physical action of walking across the yard. So that's what I think about scenes. Hello, Kirby. Hello, Larry. Hello, Donna from Australia. Holy cow, I don't even know what day it is there. It's yesterday, I think, or tomorrow. I always forget that. It's a day different. But hi, Donna. Thank you for showing up. I hope that made sense, Jenny. I believe that the whole point of a scene is someone is trying to accomplish something. And as I said, sometimes the person who's trying to accomplish something and the film is showing it to you because the film wants to accomplish something. That's a legitimate action. I know it sounds weird. I don't think I've talked about it enough. The action of the storyteller, the creator of the story telling you something. That's an action. All right. So, Friday morning. Oh, okay. Trash pickup day here. So I hope those were good answers for your questions. I hope that they helped. Once again, oh yeah, just once again, I got to do this one more time. If you get a chance, I strongly recommend, first of all, just the craftsmanship of this thing, the amount, because they are layering. Basically, it's this woman who has this drab life finds out that she has the ability to jump from one life to another in an alternate universe. And in the alternate universes, she has very, very different lives. In one, she's an action movie star. In one, she's a doctor. In one, she's a... There's a lot of great ones. I don't want to give them away. But the point is, by accessing the different lives, she can use the abilities that those other lives have to confront problems she's having in this life. And then there's a larger story about a multi-universal villain who is trying to destroy the world, basically, and she's required to fight it. She's the only one with the skills to fight it. But anyway, the thing that's amazing about it is the cleverness of the way that they put together the different skill sets and lives, and how they are or are not accessed and how they are or not useful, which at first is just, yeah, that's fun. That's like your basic action movie. You're gathering your skills and you're using them to fight a villain, fine. But then it starts to get more complicated. And as the complications develop, the emotional complexity of the alternate universes also develops. And in doing so, it reflects on the main story life. It's just so clever and so inventive and so fabulous. Anyway, okay. Cool, great. Hello, school projects by day, Stockholm. Oh, that's cool. And good evening. All right. Well, if you're writing something like that, you are writing something daring, and I appreciate it. This is a great question. How do you not get disheartened by similar themed movies? The first thing I would say is enjoy it. Say the similar theme movies prove that it can work. That's the first thing to do. And then recognize that how many war movies have there been? How many detective movies? How many movies where people turn out to have false identities? There is nothing that has not been done. And one of the things that I would suggest you do is actually make that part of your work. Hang on, is to do this. Take art apart. Watch that video. Because what I would suggest you do is, as part of your preparation for writing anything, is see what other people have done with it. Because, first of all, there are common themes. Partly you might want, like if you have some trick or twist, if you find that someone else has done it, you have to think, how can I make that mine? How can I make that original? I mean, even in perhaps one of the most original movies I have ever seen, which is this one we were just talking about, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. This is a phenomenally original movie, but truthfully, almost everything in it, I can relate to something else. The people who made it clearly could too. There are some, what they've done is they've taken interesting individual details that are quite original. But those details are within a completely standard multiple universes story, as in Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. People are making these stories of multiple universes. Many Marvel stories do it. Many other, it's just not that unusual. Likewise, Westerns. I mean, the whole point about any piece of work you're doing is that you are in a tradition, you are in a genre. And as such, you want to know everything you can about what's been done in that genre, because you're supposed to do some of that. When somebody goes to a movie with a multiverse, they expect a certain amount of jumping between universes. They expect the universes to interfere with each other. That is part of a multi-universe story. So therefore, if you are not doing what those things do, you're actually failing the audience, because the audience comes in with an expectation of that type of movie. What you want to do is find your particular take on it. And that's what something like Everything, Everywhere, All at Once does brilliantly, is that they said, okay, we are going to take this multiverse story, but we're also going to talk about the lives of a Chinese-American family, and about the immigrant experience, and about the relationships of parents and children. There's all these things that are like, okay, and within that, we are going to then, frankly, brainstorm, what do I think is cool? What do I think would be fun? What do I think the right answer to this emotional or moral or technical problem is? And that's where your story will be different from everyone else's. But truthfully, I mean, Shakespeare stole his stories. Almost every one of his stories was not original. It was an adaptation of some other well-known story. That's part of being creative. You are being creative with material. You are not creating from scratch. So the answer, how do you not get disoriented with similar themed movies, is even if you were to tell a story that has been told 1,000 times before, and if you are telling, for instance, a detective story or even a superhero story, you are telling a story that has been told 1,000 times before. The question that you have to ask yourself is, what am I bringing that's different? And it doesn't have to be big. It could just be, I'm going to set it in Arkansas, and there's not that many Arkansas superheroes, or I'm going to make it, with like Guardians of the Galaxy, just the whole idea of the old music. There's so many details which are different, but also the moral questions, the emotional questions. In a superhero story, some artists will take on the subject of what does an all-powerful or super powerful character owe to those who aren't, or how much do they regret their powers. And in others, they don't ask those questions. So your particular take on those questions is what makes it original. You should always feel excited to explore the genre that you're working in and the topic and the theme. If you're setting something in the Australian outback, you should watch everything else that's been in the Australian outback. If you can. Sometimes you can't. Like, you can't watch every detective movie. You can't watch every superhero movie. Hello, Mohammed from Algeria. It is great to have you watching. It must be very late at night there, too. Right. They have to be in pain to jump from one multiverse to another. Or tremendously ambitious. This is what I mean. I went for a certain thing, was connecting to a certain thing in that thing. There are other multiverse stories in which somebody might be thinking, oh my God, I am inspired by my ability to go to the multiverse. So that difference is going to make those two different works of art very, very different. And that's great. How do I change from one room to another? Okay, so you mean like in the scenes. Okay, I mean leaving a room, go to a long hallway to another room. The only purpose of the long hallway is to show that the rooms are not side to side. Well, if that's the purpose, then that's the purpose. That's fine. The only thing you want to do is make that trip somewhat interesting in some way. Maybe the silence of the trip, or maybe they're having a conversation in the long hallway, or there's something interesting to look at, or they're thinking that there's something at the end of it. Some way or other, you want to make that process of walking down a long hallway somewhat interesting. And by interesting, I mean have some emotional or story drama, some question. What is going to happen? So that's what you do. And Gene is right. You are unique. What you bring to that story is going to make it yours. And by the way, watching everything all at once just shows you how, because most people are actually afraid to be original. True originality is hard to get sold and hard to get a crowd to accept. People are off-put by it. And the answer is having something that's your choice. And sometimes that originality is not like super interesting. Sometimes what's original is that it's kind of common to a certain place and time. And that, like American Graffiti, is about a certain very specific suburban American 1960s and 50s experience of teenagers who drive around their small town on weekend nights. And that is technically boring, right? It's technically not very impressive or cool, doesn't accomplish anything. But what he said was, I want to show the emotional arcs within this familiar routine. And the fact is, there had not been another movie that portrayed that. It's certainly not a popular one. But that's not like it was like, ooh, I want to see a bunch of kids drive around a town. So, that was actually a hard sell when it first happened. Okay, more on Martelottoso and his hallway. The idea is that both rooms scenes in time are one after the other, minus the time it takes to get to the other room. But the idea is the rooms are pretty far away from each other. Well, then that's the point. That is just like when I showed George here walking across the backyard, and this is not very well described, but eventually it will be. The purpose of this scene, as I said, was to establish the rundownness, the patheticness of George's life. What you're talking about is in the hallway, to establish the distance between the two places. Think about, I don't know what kind of story it is, but if it's a story that's scary, then think about how difficult it is to take a long walk down a hallway in a scary place. if the distance is because you want to have show the independence of the people at the two ends, like if there's a kid who's in their room and they want not their parents not to hear them, then the difference, the inaccessibility, the fact that the parents are listening to the radio, and as you walk down the hallway the radio fades, that would be a value to that scene. The point is to think, why am I showing it, and what does that have to do with the experience of the characters? Because whatever you're going to do in the scene, when you think in scenes, you have to think in terms of the character's experience in the scene. Okay. Hamlet was indeed suggested by a Danish play. Okay. Everything has been written, but not to do. What to do? Write the same thing in a different way. Muhammad has named it. He has absolutely got the point there. Yes. Good day to you. That's my second Australian. Yes, good day. Indeed. Good on ya. Bob's your uncle. Yes, the same movie, but your twist on it. Yes, indeed. So that's, I think more and more I am going to not worry so much about the writing here. I'm going to actually just do more of this question and answer stuff, because it seems to be what you guys like. And it's certainly, I'm trying to be helpful to you. So if you have a specific question, give me a shot at it. That's great. We have learned something. We have accomplished something. We have figured out what this live stream is going to become as the step-by-step project begins to wind down. And that said, I think I am going to start to sign off here and to say I'll see you tomorrow, where we will do more of the same. What a great narrative hook, huh? More of the same. All right. Go write something.